Dumelang. Welcome to yet another episode of Monday ReTsene with Pretoria Psychologists. Kalibito ke nna Kamogelo wa Kwapa, and today we'll be talking about parental and childhood trauma. One of the things that I've realized is that this is one sensitive topic that we don't really talk about. It's one topic that affects a lot of us that we don't actually communicate. So today I am going to break that stigma, challenge the norm, and talk openly about it. Parental trauma is real, and it took me a long time to actually realize it. I was always focused on childhood trauma, that I actually missed that parental trauma does exist, and now I know it actually does. Like I said before, the ages between 0 and 7 are very crucial in each and everyone's life, because that is where you get shaped as an adult. Whatever it is that you experience during that time, whatever it is that you are taught, that you learn during that time, will shape the kind of adult that you actually end up being. So if you experience a traumatic event during that time, chances are you'll actually normalize it and condition yourself to believe that that is right, that is how things are supposed to be. A lot of us confuse "this is how I was raised" with trauma, and you might find that no, that is not how you were raised. That was actually a traumatic experience that you went through, and you didn't even know that it was trauma. So I think we need to break that stigma and confront these issues head on. Parents, one of the things that I've realized is that you don't communicate openly with your children, and that creates a distance between you and your child. And one of the most important or crucial institutions in each and every person's life is the family institution, because that is where you actually get groomed. That is where your values, your morals, your perceptions, are groomed as well. That is where you get to learn and see the world for what it is, or for how you think it is. That is where you actually get shaped. So if you don't find yourself in a comfortable, in a healthy environment, that can actually create trauma, and it can condition you to believe that that is how the world is supposed to be. A lot of children that are bullies at school, a lot of criminals that we find in prison, they are like that partly because of what they could have experienced at home. The environment plays a huge role in holistically building a person, in a person's perceptions and how they behave and their beliefs. So if a child grows in an unhealthy and unstable environment at home, chances are they will carry those patterns into the world. You will see in their aggressive behavior, you will see in their inconsistencies, you will see in the way they reason, the way they see the world, that they actually come from a broken home. And I think it is important that parents create a safe and stable environment to raise their children. And how do you do that if you haven't dealt with your own traumas? How do you raise a healthy-minded man or woman if you have not dealt with what has happened to you as a child? If you bottle everything in and don't openly communicate with your children, how do you expect your children to come to you and communicate to you or with you if you don't actually communicate with them back? How do you expect them to be comfortable enough to say, you know what, I'm not okay and I need to talk about this, if you don't do that in turn? Children learn by seeing, not by hearing. They mostly learn based on what you do as a parent. So if you say, talk to me, but you don't practice it, they won't do it. I think it is time that as a parent, you go back, self-introspect, and try to go back and trace back when you were a child. Try to see if there maybe could possibly be a traumatic event that you experienced and that you are not aware of, that could actually be making you the way that you are today, that could be altering your behavior today. For you to understand where you are, you have to go back to the past. And I think we need to start talking openly about our experiences. We know that you are not perfect. And I think the one misconception that parents have is that we expect them to be perfect. We understand that you are human and that you have walked before us, and that in as much as we have made mistakes, you also have made mistakes. We understand that. And I think it is time that you also understand that we as your children, we know that you are human. We know that you have made mistakes, and there is nothing wrong with you communicating openly with your children. For you to create a healthy environment for your kids, you need to allow yourself to be vulnerable. You need to allow yourself to go back to that pain that you don't want to actually express or don't want to feel, and allow yourself to feel it so you can be a better parent to your children. If you don't do that, you risk projecting your issues onto your child. And you wonder why most children are on nyaupe right now, or alcoholics. Yes, some of them could be a result of their own decisions, but most importantly, most of them rather, they are like that because of not getting the support that they need from home, because of not being raised in a healthy environment. And I think we need to actually start speaking about these things openly without sugarcoating them, because these people need help. And in as much as an addict can go to rehab and get help, but if they come back to the same environment, chances are they will actually relapse. So in as much as you want your child to be healthy mentally, you also need to create that environment for them. And you do that by also being mentally healthy yourself. Parents need to understand that there is a difference between then and now. There's a huge difference between how things were done then and how things are done now. We live in an era now where children are exposed to a lot of things. The media is in their ears. We have social media. A lot of children are suffering from depression, and they cannot talk to their parents. And if you cannot talk to someone that gave birth to you, then who are you going to talk to? And I'm not saying that it is solely the parent's responsibility to make sure that their children are okay. But children as well, you also have a responsibility to take care of yourself. You should actually hold yourself accountable. You can't be making decisions and saying that it's because my parents did this and this and this. They brought you into this world, yes, but you also need to hold yourself accountable. You need to take care of yourself and your mental health as well. But in order for us to have a healthy community and healthy families, we have to do this together so we can actually break generational cycles that have been there for many and many generations. If you as a parent don't deal with your trauma, you are risking passing it down or projecting it onto your kids, them growing up normalizing it and conditioning that themselves that it's okay to be like that, them passing it down to their children, and it going on from generation, and you might find that it doesn't even end. You might find that in each and every generation there are dropouts. There's alcoholics. Sometimes we say it's curses, but I believe in this case it could be cycles that need to be broken. And we, children that are aware, we, the generation that is aware of what's happening, I think we need to start talking about this openly and break the stigma so we can actually raise young, healthy-minded men and women of the future. And something that we don't realize is that trauma can actually also cause a person to not have healthy relationships. You ask yourself why you can't stay committed in relationships. That's trauma. And if you don't deal with it, you'll find yourself going from one person to another. So it's imperative that you deal with your traumas. And as hard as it is, you need to face and confront your issues. Because unresolved issues create deeper issues. If you don't heal your wound, you are risking it spreading, rotting, and it becoming bigger and bigger. So it is important that you confront those issues. It is important that you also seek psychological help. We do have family counseling. where we can actually counsel both mother, father, and children. It is very important to have that. If you feel like you cannot intervene by yourselves, then don't be ashamed to seek psychological help, so we can actually help you become better, healthy, and happier as a family. But for that to happen, you need to actually be willing to do that. You need to be willing to confront your fears, confront your issues, and find yourself in a space where you are okay with being vulnerable, because there is nothing wrong with being vulnerable. Parents, I would advise that you communicate openly with your children, that you try and create a safe and loving environment for them so they can actually grow up to be healthy-minded people. If they don't receive that at home, they are going to go out looking for it somewhere else. And I don't think we want the streets to create that for them. Because if the streets do that, then we are risking having a drug addict. We're risking having someone that's going to probably end up in prison. And we don't want that. So can we please be better for our children? Youngsters, if you are watching this, also take note and try to also resolve your own issues, so you can actually be better parents one day that are raising healthy-minded children of the future. I hope and I pray that you do take this to heart, and that you find it in you, you find the courage in you to actually break the stigma and break the cycle and free yourself from that which has been holding you captive. Thank you so much for joining us on yet another episode of Monday ReTsene with Pretoria Psychologists. Until next time.